Welcome. This is the Art of Rock. I'm in the mood for rocking this morning in an arty kind of way. First and foremost, I acknowledge the Tongva people as being the traditional landowners of Los Angeles, California. Thank you for surviving. Find out who your traditional landowners are. Start with finding out what their name is. Secondly, every Saturday we are here, Art of Rocking, on Angelspit's Twitch, also on Angelspit's YouTube. Jump on and get you some joy, as another podcast says. I just stole that from Jerry. This is made possible with Angelspit's Patreon. A whole bunch of stuff on this free. So jump on. And it's fucking awesome. I'm sorry guys. I'm ill. So if I come across as being a bastard more so than usual, I'm blaming the cold. As little as $3 a month and you can be fucking finding enlightenment. Red End is Angelspit's new album and it's quite brutal and I'm really proud of it. Industrial Incision's playlist is there and there's a bunch of bands that you need to know about. Jump on them. Vulture Culture every Wednesday night. Join Alex because it's fucking awesome. Right there. MTV TV is where we're going to be rating to after this because it's fucking fantastic. If you want to do something about the United States, indivisible.org. There's a 12-step recovery plan if you've got too much social media in your life. Who doesn't? Raziel, thank you for co-hosting.
It's a pleasure to be here. Good morning.
Fantastic. And I also want to send out a big booyah to these amazing humans who are either on or will be on this fantastic chat. I think there was something else. Oh, GoFundMe for Drake. Man, neurons are not firing. GoFundMe for Drake. Go help out Drake. Rezi, you've got an idea about reducing interruption. Tell me about that fantasticness.
Man, it's kind of a sprawling, like, meta topic of topics. Like
sprawl, baby, sprawl.
So if I had to thread something out of where I'm at with this, there's a filmmaker named Jesse Senko who has I recently became aware of his YouTube channel, and I've been liking when he echoes sentiments that I already had, kind of fan of him, but I also like his work. But his ideas that he shares are often about productivity and creativity and kind of the same stuff we talk about here. And he had a piece about reducing interruptions specifically with a mind toward the sort of modal creativity space. Like his sort of catch was, do you decide when to be creative? And I was like, oh yeah, because sometimes you just get inspiration. So I'm going to skip over that a little bit, but leave it as sort of the idea, the kernel. He had a lot of practical solutions that techniques for reducing interruption and stuff, which I don't think are solutions for most people, but you might not think of them, and it pays to at least sort of revisit these ideas once in a while if you haven't, and maybe be introduced to them if you have. And I'm drawn to this one thing that you hear out in public a lot. When you're in a crowd and somebody has the little bird tweet out loud on their phone in public going off frequently. You hear it in like maybe in a meeting or in just in public in general, like on the bus or something. And that has always baffled me enough that I know there are definitely more than one type of person with regard to wanting to have stimulus coming out of your handheld. I think it's insane. Like how could you possibly find it useful to know that there's a general pipe of messages coming out of this thing from the public, like to have an audio alert that other people can hear? Strikes me as crazy. On the other end of that is these simplified no interruptions, put your phone in a drawer. I'm working on music. I'm only creating right now. Nothing can interrupt me. And I think those are the simple extremes. Like you just, whatever app goes on your phone, it gives you alerts. The end. I don't know. It's just always going off. It's buzzing. Maybe it's your watch or your actual, it's in your pocket, or you've got the tones on. there's that range, and then there's the like I'm in a different mode and I'm good at turning the device off. But obviously, in between those, there's a whole universe of categorizing your notifications and being intentional about which ones are relevant to what you're doing. Because if you're actually working maybe on something socially having to do with your band, the encouragement of other people also being working on that and being aware of that they're doing stuff, that can be buoying. That can be like working with the crew a little bit. Whereas if you're actually, leaned over your with your pen and pad and writing words that are just coming out of your imagination, and you're referring back to your device for thesaurus or something, you don't want, I would assume, I personally don't want other people to demand what I'm thinking about at that time. I want that to be my own reserved path to follow. And there's not much utility in somebody that I don't even know, but kind of thought something was interesting once to be able to interrupt my flow at that time. That also strikes me as crazy. So just thinking about that, I'm going to shut up after prefacing it all and sort of go over. I'm gonna run through mentally a couple of the suggestions that he made, but hopefully somebody else can jump in and talk a little bit about their experiences with balancing and attending to what you think is important to get interrupted by and how you control your own attention to work and creativity.
Thank you. You brought up a lot of really interesting things in there, and I know that all of us struggle with this. Alex, I'd love to know your brain shapes, versions, the artwork in your mind.
So the thing I've done is, first of all, just don't enable notifications for anything that doesn't need it. For example, Instagram doesn't have notifications for me. And I know that in iPhone there are like different modes you can put your device in, where you block certain apps from speaking to you for a certain period of time, or when you're in a certain location. And I think it also has something similar, like a soft block function, where it blocks like everything but the third attempt from that person to write you or call you. So that's also really handy if you have somebody who's like messaging you a lot and you want to block them completely, but to just have reduced input so you can concentrate a bit more about what you do.
That's great. Thank you very much. Phoenix, what do you think?
What I think is basically, I used to be a sound on alerts kind of person. Okay. Because I was like, okay, I always want to know when I get my message. But I realized that can be very, very rude when you're in a public space or when you're around other people. So I've learned and changed that pattern of behavior to be like, okay, I'm going to be considerate of others. Vibration is perfectly fine. And it's not going to like upset all these people that I'm friends with. And that's what I've learned to do with myself. I've also learned how to better balance this last year with interruptions, because my partner and I basically have come up with a thing where if we're spending time together, phones just go off to the side. We ignore the hell out of the phones because the most important thing is that time we're spending, or say if he's creating something or I'm creating something, like we want to focus on that. And if we get out of the groove of focusing on it, we're going to get frustrated and upset, and we're going to get upset in that area, and we don't want to. So we've learned just put the device down and put it off to the side and put it on vibrate, because that stuff can wait. What's more important is just how it makes it flow, and that's it.
No, that's great. Thank you so much. Razi, brain shape, go.
Yeah, a couple quick thoughts to follow up on both of Alex and Phoenix. the model for mode switching is it's called focus modes on iOS, and you can very easily set your main home screen and lock screen and everything to be like a different color for when you're in creativity mode. Mine happens to have a picture of JoJo. Cat's creativity, they go hand in hand. Although my main home screen now also has a picture of my cat, so figure that as you will. But as you flip between those home screens very easily swiping, it will also change your alerts settings, your what's on the screen, your mainly those two things. But the colors, the image, the number of alerts I can get through, all that can change with just one swipe. That's the focus modes that sort of Alex was alluding to. And then the second call will ring through two calls in a row. So even if you do a more drastic shut your alerts and vibrates and everything off, and you do want to be reached, you might have elderly or sick friend or something that you think is worth rising above that. And a combination of putting them as your VIP list so that they get an extra level of can break through. There's a hierarchical thing, and it starts getting in the weeds, keeping track of all this. But let's just say the choice of either let people know if they call the second time, it's going to break through, or if they're on a VIP list, they may be able to break through silenced modes. And then Phoenix, one of the things that I switched to, certainly in the same way with sounds off, was vibrations aren't even on the phone because it might be on the table or in my pocket. So they always come through on the wrist. So it's always the taptic, like tactile alerts on that. So it's even one step. I can rely on knowing that I will be tapped when an alert comes through wherever the phone is, even if I put it aside. And that has led to a new social interaction of, oh, what are you, bored? You're looking at the time a little bit. But if you practice ignoring the alerts too and just trusting that they'll accumulate, it's something. I don't know what the positives are necessarily, but it's something. And then the other thing that might be worse in all of this is announcing messages and even reading voicemails and SMS and iMessages verbally in headphones. So if you are in a mode where your VIPs, it'll come through and you'll just read the messages, which you don't want to include spam. So hopefully you've got that thing filtered and it's locked down to just your either VIPs or close friends or something like that. But there's a few things. Thanks for weighing in on both of those. Back.
Amazing. Thank you so much. Ivan, do you want to throw in on this incredibly riveting conversation?
No, absolutely. The signal to noise is what this is really all about in the end. And like the biggest trick for you as an individual is which of those is signal, which of those is noise. Like Instagram for me is only noise. Like I don't need notifications on that. I'll look at it when I get to it. If I was, an influencer, those would become signal fairly quickly because, you need to look alive there. I don't have to, so I'm not going to. At the same time, like I spent decades being on call for work, and like those calls always had to get through, usually because like my response was timed. And so this does end up kind of a complicated mess. And I would say that the iOS's ability to, set notification precedents based on which screen you're on that's actually that's pretty handy. I would also, I also question if not, it would not be, handy is to have some sort of like, Bluetooth object that you can put in a room that when your phone discovers that it's in range of that Bluetooth, it automatically just changes notifications for you so that you're not getting bothered. because these things that we've become altogether too reliant on we have made them important to ourselves. That doesn't always mean they are, but we definitely act like they are. So we just need to know when something's important and if it needs to be able to be in the way. And the less if it never the signal to noise ratio needs to always be kind of taken care of. It needs to be one of those like primary moments in our minds, because you can't give up important signals, but the noise, once you can identify it, you can get rid of it. That just gets in the way and like makes you end up with less of a life. All right, I'm gonna be quiet now.
Thanks so much, guys. I'm gonna shoot my mouth off. Put your fucking phone next door, for fuck's sake, and focus on making exciting fucking music. Jesus H fucking Christ, getting a fist. What the fuck? You cry at me about how fucking AI is taking over, and Jesus fuck. Guys, I'm really sorry to tell you this, but if this is what your life has become, you've got a fucking problem. No wonder your music's so fucking boring. No wonder you're not getting it fucking finished. And no wonder AI is making the same fucking slop as everybody fucking else. Put it next door, for fuck's sake. And you know what? Fuck you, everybody else. Go look at some fucking porn or something. Jesus fucking Christ. I hear this drivel shit on the fucking internet all the time, and it's like, I just want to I asked a friend the other night, what rhymes with cunt? Cunt rhymes with cunt. Fuck me fucking dead. Fuck me fucking dead. Jesus H fucking Christ fuck. Oh my God. Holy fuck. Jesus fuck. I can't fucking believe this. What's that guy's name who walked around on the stage telling everyone to get fucked? What's that guy's name? No, not me, prick. What was that? Carlton, what was his name?
I thought it was Guilford Godfrey.
Yeah, he's great. Let's go with him. I think we need to be really channeling Bill Barr. What was his name? George Carlin, is it?
I mean,
that guy.
He's important, certainly.
Yeah. Well, I don't fucking know. It's just fucking hell. You are so fucking distracted. You are on this planet to experience what it is to be fucking human, for fucking sake. Jesus fucking Christ. This is a fucking distraction. This is why the country is in a fucking mess. This is why the human psyche is in a mess. This is why dating is in a mess. This is why because a fucking algorithm is telling you what the fuck to do and how to live your fucking life. And now it's writing music and making art for you, and it's making mass-produced shit better than any other corporation could make mass-fucking produced shit. Fuck! Turn it off. Flush it down the fucking toilet. Fuck! Rezi, would you like to say something?
Yeah, I could not agree more. And here is why the conversation previous to what you just offered was about not putting your phone next door, but having ways to cause it to not do the things you're saying. And that my quick list was metronome, tuner, DAW remote, thesaurus, and mood light switches. Those are just a few that come to mind as reasons why I would not want to put my phone next door, but also not want it to ever giving me any push notifications or alerts of any sort. Do you need to do those things? No, you can probably do them on your computer, but also a lot of us have all the notifications come up on all of our devices so that if the phone rings, the computer screen is ringing also, and maybe you can shut that off, but you kind of use it most of the time. So having an easy way to swipe it all aside can be useful. I'm not advocating that you should have alerts come up on all of your devices just because you're getting an alert. But again, if you do need to not buy a second handheld device or all the other things that will do those things, having one handheld that you can always go to that's got your sound meter, your frequency analyzer, your metronome tuner, remote controls for things, MIDI controllers, custom controllers, maybe use your ChatGPT companion. I don't know, that can get in the weeds too. It's got there. We've come to a place where those things are maybe part of your creativity and part of your workflow and part of your turning on your red teenage mood light.
Thank you so
What are you going to do?
I'll tell you what I'm going to do. You know I'm going to tell you what I'm going to do.
Fight me? Is that...
Ivan, no, I'd never fight you. Ivan, you'd beat the shit out of me. Ivan, do you want to interject now before I absolutely fucking...
Airplane mode is your friend, because nothing's getting through now. You know, like it will, the whole world will just stop bothering you, which is great because you can still pick up your phone and check the time, which like the most I need it for, especially when I'm being focused. And the, you know, the algorithm trying to distract you and or tell you what's important is probably the real you know, meaty part of this, because, you know, we're letting AI or, you know, an algorithm try to figure out what matters to us when like it has no idea. It just knows that there's patterns out there, because and the worst part is it's spending most of its time measuring itself, you know, which is a problem. I, you know, have been messing with, you know, making some changes in my life. And I gotta say that one of the really valuable changes, if you know what Shabbat is, there is a definite like value to just silencing that crap for a day, and like, and just turns out you can just live without it. You don't really need it, you know, and being able to just like disconnect on a, you know, pretty regular basis is super handy. You know, it's like you can just get a little space there, you know, just kind of, you know, quiet that mess down for a moment, and then, you know, and then, you know, be more focused and intentional when regular life picks back up. Well, I did that. I don't think I need an algorithm to do that. All right, I'll be silent again.
No, that's brilliant. Thank you. Alex, what do you think?
I think, first of all, luckily the phone isn't my main problem with distractions. It's more playing around with things that don't put the track forward. The second one is looking things up as in tutorials about how to do something, and then being sidetracked by other videos. But maybe if your phone distracts you, it's a good idea to invest in a dedicated tuner, etc., etc. And maybe an old iPod or iPhone that's specifically for remote controlling your lights if you have one lying around.
So can I just throw out something else? I think the rant that I just gave, hi Rob, you Mr. Beauty, it was only a 7, I think. I think that was a 7. It wasn't an 8. My question is, what can you do to inject excitement, fury, anger, focus into your musical thing? And we're careful here because we're going to be going up to we're going to be harnessing in on that anger and that chaos and everything that's going on and the frustration. But the objective is to bring it in a focused manner. I'm changing the subject now. Because my problem is that everything that fucking computers as fucking AIs is supposed to be fucking doing, it's not doing. It's just not doing. And if I keep listening to it and listening to their suggestions, I am going to write disco, but the not cool disco, the boring disco, or it's going to be the boring grunge, because that's what AI is this like something really fantastic happens. Whatever the style of music is, grunge, cyberpunk, industrial, dubstep, whatever it is, and it becomes bro step. Bro step's what AIs do. Bro goth, there's a lot of that, is what AI does. Brodustrial is what ebro m is what an AI does. Fuck AIs. Because we've had the whole, this is what the record company has done all the time. And it's taken the worst of everything, mashed it together and made something worse. And I could not be fucked having a conversation about whether you agree or not about fucking AIs, because I just don't give a shit. My question is, how do you take this and convert it into something fantastic? Like how do you neurologically at the edge, and this is the real thing about songwriting and all this stuff, is that you're exercising a part of your brain that not many things get to exercise. I heard this fantastic thing this week that if you get your little finger and you touch a point of your body, and then with your mind you focus on that point and you drag your consciousness to that point. You drag it to that point and it feels like it's going into that point. Here's the trick. Touch the top of your head now. And let your consciousness drag to the top of the head, because in your top of the head, there's all of this magical thinking area. Like it's the real hardcore problem solving. If you want to be really clever, you do this. You lift it out of your skull and you take your consciousness with you. You try and think in a way that you've never thought before. How can you achieve that? Rezi, your hand is up. Would you like to jump in at this point?
Yeah, without dragging us back into where we came from, I do want to acknowledge what I think you're saying, and I think what we have been saying is the problem isn't really notifications. The problem is you. You got to fix something about you. And my success this week, one of my limited successes that I chalked up, was thinking about the creative process, thinking about the things that move the project forward, that I think Alex mentioned, like making sure some of the things you're doing and checking in that these things are part of your path. And what Ivan mentioned as intentionality, that they're on purpose and that they are purposeful. Some of these turning off your shit and putting your phone in the neighbor's house, according to Carl, are
Throwing it.
Throwing it at your neighbor, are part of that intentionality practice, part of that purpose, part of that building rituals, part of that building habits, part of that getting back into your sacred temple of magic and fostering your moment to commune with the muses, if you can get there. They're not solutions to it, but they're certainly on the path toward it if you intend them to be.
Thank you. Alex, what do you think?
Ultimately, I don't have the answer, but here are things that I feel brought me in the right direction. The first one is to listen to music that I like before making music myself, especially with loud volume. Also caffeine and using hardware and especially analog mixers for some reason, because I often get like this kind of friction with digital ones because sometimes something doesn't work like I intended to. But with analog ones, it's just one knob that does exactly one thing. And yeah, that's basically what I've learned, what pushes me in the right direction.
Brilliant. Phoenix, what do you think?
Basically, what I can do to harness the chaos, the anger, the frustration, and the focus with all the garble that's going on is I just try to myself meditate a little bit, either listen to music or, like Alex said, listen to music that inspires him too and gets his move and his flow going. But how I take something like that is the garble and convert it into something fantastic is I see certain AI as tools that you can like improve yourself upon with said tools, but not completely right. Like, oh, I want this to write me a song. Hell no. I see it as it's good for helping describe stuff that's already concrete, that's already there, that's already built like a foundation. And some of the things that this talk has brought up is I might want to dip my toes into stuff and music that I haven't even considered yet, because that's even more marketing out there. And hell, last night I couldn't sleep at 3 a.m., so I made a song in an hour. And it's like, if I can do that quickly, I could possibly change certain ways I look at things, like as you said before, and create even more beautiful things. But yeah, I like what Alex said about like listening to certain stuff and then making your own painted time after that. So thank you.
I always want to, but I don't. Print out my very strange brain will put out ideas and put out thoughts after the wave of chaos. A thought will come out. It'll have probably nothing to do with the chaos, the anger, or whatever. It will just be a thought. And it'll be a slather of verse, a slather of chorus or something. But I find myself always just, all I want to do is print out my phone. Print it out, or the first couple of pages, and sit down with a highlighter pen or scissors and start cutting that up. I've always wanted to do it, but I don't. I don't know why I don't. I want to go back to where I used to write with paper. Like I still write musical dots on paper with paper and pen, but I want to go back to where it was lyrics, because I think they were better. And I think they were better because if I'm going to write that word down, I've got to make sure it's good. I've got to make sure it's worth the energy of me writing that word down to that thing. The only issue is that you'd write something line, then you'd scrape it out. There was nowhere to, yeah, I know. That's it. It's the erasing thing. And you don't want to erase it. You want to put a line through it and then write above it, but you run out of space. It's getting back to this old thing where you can sit on the couch with it on your knees, and get back to the actual concept of doing that. And then you end up with folders full of fucking stuff of lyrics. It helps because there's just something about the process of it. And I think for me, it's above romance, or maybe it's not romance. Maybe it's connected to my brain's way of creating and working. And maybe because I think it's working stuff out on a computer feels like it's a shortcut to me because I'm so used to that being the last step after going through all this stuff on paper. Then I'm finally going to go over here. So I need to figure out, I need to allow myself, how many fucking times do I say this? The joy of wasting time more better than looking at the internet. Because as everyone knows, I have a problem with I have a problem with the internet. I have a problem with doom scrolling. And that's why I can't have the phone here. It beeps, pings, and everything. I'm looking at it 20 minutes later. I used to do this thing. I still do this thing that I'll take my headphones off and look at the phone, and I'll leave the play head rolling. And I'll look up and it's been rolling for 10 minutes. Didn't feel like 10 minutes or half an hour. It's a problem for me. So anyway, there you go. Raziel, what do you think?
There's a million ways to get to bar 1,433 of your timeline. And, you know, maybe it's because you were jamming along. Maybe it's because you got distracted. Maybe it's because you were actually playing a take, you know, for the long duration. But yeah, if it's because you were distracted and looking away and you realize your song is over here and, you know, the bar that you're on is all the way over here and it takes you more time to scroll back than it did to play it. I can understand the frustration with that. Again, the problem is you mantra there. It's important to know how to fix you rather than fix the phone, rather than fix the operating system, rather than fix the world. And if that fix you is, yeah, the phone goes away, the computer isn't attached to the internet, then that's smart. That's valuable knowledge. And if it's easier for you or more effective for you to put the phone aside and have other tools, Alex, Carl, those are smart and effective of ways of achieving the same thing. And I don't have any criticism of it. The graphical sketches of the lyrics, though, like Carl, as you mentioned it, like that is another mode, you know, the physical, tactile, gestural, smell of ink, paper, feel and sound of paper. These are all real factors in what's beautiful and engaging and emotionally and activating about writing your lyrics on paper. And if you know, that gets you going too. Some people have the right tactile keyboard to make these sort of effects happen in them. But some of us do write fast and messy and for a long time, and then in pen permanently and use a lot of pages because pages are cheap, and then edit slow and methodically and carefully, and then maybe transfer that to your computer as Carl mentioned. And I've heard it said as write drunk, edit sober. A similar sentiment. Analytic versus creative. There's two modes there, and all of these things are sort of in accessing those styles of operation for you, not for the devices, but for you, for being able to swipe your personal home screen into creative mode and attend to it. And that's what's really most important. And Phoenix, you mentioned using a chatbot as a sounding board, sort of the way I thought of it is actually engaging in a verbal chat with another thing. I put it in that mode a lot, and just shoot the shit with, here's what I'm planning. I can say it out loud. I want to get this done and this done and this done. And the thing's making notations of what I'm saying, and switching to that verbal mode and getting what appear to be confirmations and collations of these ideas and having them ubiquitously captured is really powerful for me. That could differ very greatly from how you engage the chat agent, but practice plans, writing sessions, specific goals, defining goals, refining goals, and saying them out loud. Yeah, I find that really neat anyway, if not super helpful.
Thank you. Legendary. Alex, hit me.
To yes, and something that Phoenix said, I think what also helps me to stay focused is to just pull an all-nighter, because then I'm in like a how's it called? Like if horses have like those things on the sides of their head. Like if it's late at night, maybe 3 a.m., 4 a.m., then I'm just on one track and suddenly all distractions go away. Only problem is since not being really young, I often get sleepy, but maybe enough caffeine will help with that.
Just out of interest, Alex, they're called blinkers. Different countries have different words for them. What do you call them in Germany?
Scheuklappen.
Schorkler. What does that mean in English?
Definitely a compound noun of two
Yeah,
meanings put together there.
Scheu means to be cautious or wary, and Klappe is like a flap. Oh, God.
Sorry.
No problem. It's just me being stupid.
Uncautious with your flap.
Need blinkers.
Sorry. Or blinders. Thank you. Hey, no, thanks, Alex. Sorry about the facial injury.
No, just tell me if my eye becomes red.
I will. Phoenix.
What I've learned is that what you're talking about is, Alex, is hyper focusing, where you shut out the entire world and you just like zoom your brain in to whatever you're working on, and you are really productive. Talking about the tactile writing thing for a second, that just gave me an awesome idea for either art or possibly a music video in the future, to have basically like a blank screen behind or whatever, or canvas, and then either newspaper clipping things pop up in the video, or also very messily written things for the lyrics kind of scroll by, or just slap the canvas or slap the video, so you kind of like just see it pop there. But that happens with me, the whole doom scrolling thing like you were talking about, and it just, I'll be looking at my phone and I'll be like, okay, 15 minutes, 3 hours later. So I have to actually set myself alarms when I get into that mode. So it's just a reminder of, hey, you might be wanting to do something else. And I found that's very helpful for me. But yeah, the graphical sketches are a great idea. Even taking maybe like graphite on a canvas, I might do that and take all the lyrics from a song I have and just like start penciling it out. And then I'm gonna probably spray like a clear coat so like it can't, wash off or be rubbed off. But I mean, that was a freaking awesome idea. So, but yeah, that's my little thing.
And a great thought. Thank you. It was interesting. Raziel was saying write drunk, edit sober, and I realized that's just a saying. But it's interesting. I realized that I haven't made music while intoxicated for many years. It used to be the best fucking fun. I drink alone, and I made these cocktails called a Swiss Tan, and it was Kahlua, vodka, Frangelico. So 1 Kahlua, 1 Frangelico, 2 vodka, chilled. And the horse had a bit of a kick in it, let me tell you. And I'd sip on one of those things for hours and just make music. Interestingly, I found about creating drunk didn't really, it was nice. Well, you thought it was nice at the time, and then you'd go back and listen to it, and yes, there were ideas in there. The thing that always, like the reason I did it is because I had to release my mind. I still focus on, constantly have great fun, trying to release my mind. But most of the people listening to this are going to be drunk. And the interesting thing is that, like, you know, when someone's drunk, there's so much shit you can throw at them. Like when you throw in too much stuff at them, oh fuck, they can't deal with that. They don't want to deal with that. Maybe I just learned the lesson and learned how to replicate being drunk. I'm not sure. Alex, I forgot what I was going to say. Go.
Yeah, my problem with making music drunk that it just doesn't work with electronic music for me because there's so much things you need to keep in mind. And I tried it and it just led nowhere because I needed to do some technical thing, and I just couldn't do it because like I got lost. It didn't work. I got frustrated. I played bass intoxicated. I don't think I've sung intoxicated, but I think that would also somewhat work. But electronic music just doesn't work. It just can't do the things I want to do.
That's very interesting. Razi.
Phoenix mentioned the notion of hyperfocus, and I can't resist the opportunity to go back to the sage teachings of Mihai Csikszentmihalyi and the flow state, which is, I think, sort of the underscore of maybe everything we're trying to achieve here and talk about in creativity, in that he talks about something that's relatively high challenge and high expertise. So you have a lot of expertise in. I think that's the corner of the graph we're talking about, where you can enter into a state where time passes by and you don't realize it and you got stuff done. And absent some of those elements, like time passes by and nothing got done, that's bad. Things are frustrating and time passes by and you're beating your head against the wall, probably also a bad corner of that two-axis graph. But I think we could draw a big circle around almost everything we're talking about and call it trying to get into creative flow state, and whether that includes some emotional anger for you or just pure concentration and you really don't even notice the world, or there's joy in it at the end for having completed it. These are probably an abstract, at least, goal to have for all of this. Like, why even bother to finish the music? No, it's because you feel a certain way having achieved the music. It was a plan. It was something you did, probably.
Thank you. Phoenix, what are your thoughts on this?
My thoughts are, I have to write things down, but that's okay. I make a lot of my music because I have to take THC because I have severe fibro, and I do a lot of it when I'm on THC, but I actually hear and see and kind of feel more different ways of the sound itself, and it does really get me into the flow state, as Raziel mentioned. But the reason I make all that music is it's more of all of what I'm about with the abstract, because electronic music is abstract. It is a bunch of different regular sounds, especially industrial, of just like machines making sounds. And it's all kind of composed and pushed together so that it's like, whoa, crap, I didn't know this could sound so good and make me feel these feelings that I've had either locked down or have this big release. Because I know how it goes, where you feel all this stress and your brain's kind of like a pressure cooker. And you just got to have that release of music, either writing the lyrics or creating it or just doing something. And that's how I do it with my flow state, So, thank you.
Thank you. If I get the chance and if I can remember, I will do vocals drunk. I'm not drunk. Well, drunk for me is like this much alcohol. A water flask was that 24 ounces, and one shot of vodka in it or rum, and that's all I need. And I might have a little like tiny quarter shot beforehand, and then as you're drinking it, because it's watered down, it's more like a rescue remedy. each to their own, and they do whatever it is. But my thing is that I did the product, the 2014 album, Wasted, and they're some of the best vocals I've ever done. Because I was really like channeling David Lee Roth, but yeah, it was interesting that it's interesting how there's certain points of the, like what you said, Alex. I agree with you that there's an amount of alcoholic or intoxication that you can do editing. I mean, when you're working, being creative. I remember lying on the floor and I had my mouse hand up, moving the mouse around, still absolutely capable of running the session and putting in ideas, but I was plastered. And that was after like 2 drinks. But yeah, I think that the trick is for me at least, and then I can't use marijuana. I can't use it at all. Some can, some can't. It's just really curious. The human mind is the strangest thing that, sometimes you got to figure out how to push it. And that could be meditation. You just got to figure out what tiny tweakages do you need to do to it that will put it in the best frame of rock, Raziel, what do you think?
I always think it's kind of funny how similar you and I are with the approach to exactly how much to drink for effect, and also that weed is counterproductive toward ever getting anything done for me also. Tiny amounts, and I'm just not really doing what I intended to do. But with having a drink and writing, there's I'll cop to that, as it's such a rare thing. I mean, for me, like, it is the times that I drink are when I'm writing some lyrics, and it's a bit of a device to get rid of some of the executive editor function, a bit of a practice to be in the moment and have that particular glass with that shape ice and that pen and that pad and the ritual stuff. That's just a throwback from youth, when I did perhaps think drinking to excess was something I could get benefit from. But it's subtle. This isn't get wasted and don't be able to write so you can't read what you wrote. It's and it's way not for everyone. It might not be for anyone. Freudian slip. It's not for everyone. It's up to how you interact with the chemicals. And there's 1, 2, 3, 4, probably 5 people on this panel that have more to say about more kinds of chemicals than I do. So I have no authority on this. But the small act of having a drink with writing lyrics, this stuff has an effect. I mean, it's got a psychological effect. It's got a motor coordination effect, even with the this much of the alcohol booze part that I put in with the seltzers and ice and stuff. And it's, I don't know, personality changing, executive editor changing, slightly shift to get into that space again in the seeking flow.
Thank you. And thanks for everybody in the comments. I'm really enjoying this. I've, when I'm in a country where it is legal for me to take psychedelics, I would love to take advantage of those laws, take psychedelics, and record and or write music. Did you notice how carefully I put all that? As that would be a really interesting experiment. Phoenix, what are you thinking?
I realized I didn't chime in on the whole alcohol thing. I actually, sadly, am highly allergic to alcohol. I found that out at a convention. My first convention I drank once. And I had to call an ambulance because I was vomiting blood. So I was like, okay, one and done. Never going to do that again. And then eventually I found out that only THC edibles work with me, not the actual smoke, the smoke makes me just vomit. And then I don't get anything done because I'm worshiping the porcelain god at that time too, you know. But I've just learned that we all have, from what I've heard, we all have our own little ways we work with ourselves to inspire creativity, to push our brains to whatever way we want. And with even drinking with other people, of course, other people that drink may be on that same wavelength of being like, oh yeah, this is fantastic, because they can kind of compare their experience to the person they're watching, and they're like, shit, yeah, this is similar to me. So that's why the familiarity, you know, makes people watch it more or listen to it more, you know, because that's what that is. Yeah. Yeah. Thanks.
Thank you. No, thank you. Alex, where's your brain?
Another way to get in this in an altered state of mind is just performing in front of others. Because when there's somebody watching you, you're suddenly on the edge. And I had this experience with collaborating with others and having to come up with a synthesizer sound in a short time, and it was vastly different from something I would have made alone. And the same thing is when you're on stage and you improvise, you're different. You write different, you play differently. So that's also a possibility. It's difficult because not every time you want to write something, you have an audience. But with the internet, you can just live stream yourself, or I don't know, maybe go to an improvisational show in your area.
I agree with that. Thank you. It is fascinating how if you stream, you think differently. It's really, you're on the spot. It's fascinating. Thank you. Ivan, blow my mind.
Over in software development land is a thing called the Balmer curve. It's, be about two and a half drinks in. And what that does is it reduces your inhibitions and makes you more willing to, hey, I'm just going to try that and see what happens. And as it turns out, it loosens up creativity. And over in software land, you can see the Balmer curve going into effect on somebody because their check-ins to GitHub increase in frequency, and usually like depth and quality even go up, because strangely enough, like you just get a little bit into two drinks in, and you're not wasted. You can still pretty effectively do lots of things. You're just spending less time worried about breaking something. So like there's a very solid correlation between like Balmer curve in writing software and Balmer curving to write music, because kind of go through an awful lot of the same stuff.
That's fascinating. Balmer.
Yeah,
As in John Balmer.
Steve Ballmer.
Who the fuck's Steve Balmer?
He was the
Microsoft
president of
CEO.
Microsoft.
Was
Yeah.
he Australian? Was he in the mid-late 90s?
Well, he was there then, but then like he was running Microsoft in the 2000s.
Okay, I may have
He's
been
kind of a
working
sweaty
for
fat guy.
Okay, I may have been working for Microsoft when he was there, because he did another thing where he gave. I may have told you this story before. He gave all the managers and all the software designers Nerf guns, because tensions were building up too much, and there were like fights. So he gave everyone Nerf guns, and he was forcing people to go home. You couldn't stay overnight and pull an all-nighter. I think it was him. And people were having great big Nerf battles because it was tension release. But that's fun. That's really fascinating. I'm with you, Jen. 2.5 drinks and I'm out like a light. Yeah, 2.5 drinks would suggest the guy's
Everybody's got their
Australian.
own version of 2.5 drinks.
Yeah,
Maybe
yeah,
for you, it's, half a shot.
yeah. Alex, what link is that you just put there?
The origin of the Balmer curve, according to
Oh, yes.
Wikipedia.
Okay, this is the origin of the Balmer curve. Thank you very much, Brett. I'd love to hear from you. Welcome. Tell me what's going on in your face.
Good morning, guys. Sorry I'm late. Yeah, so weed for me is ADD meds. I don't have a limit there. It's really weird. Everyone else will be out cold, and the way it works with me, it's just like the like a first bowl or something like that. Is like, okay, cool, I'm done with work, or I'm done needing to be. I'm done needing to take advantage of my ADHD. Essentially, is what it is. So during the day, caffeine is really it. I need to be able to move very, very quickly between subjects, between clients, between everything, and it's just this constant, And so having an ADHD brain in that regard works for me. It's like things aren't lasting too long, and the consequence, the Balmer curve, if you will, for me is time in that regard. So if I want to come in and I want to write, just write music, then I'll probably have a bowl or two, or I'll probably just kind of, I've been on Art of Rock talking to you guys and, seeing me take a hit every now and then. That's how that is one of the tools I use to make sure that I'm focused on this. Well, the way it works for me is like, how like weed will make you get the stares or something, and people kind of like lock in and kind of drift off. Well, that for me happens, but it happens at a much less severe degree. And so I'm not bouncing off the damn walls. And then I'm not sitting there like playing a synth and then being like, okay, what's going on outside? And what's going on over there? Alcohol. Alcohol is a tricky thing. Because alcohol will fuck me up. But it's the tool that if I want to write lyrics, opens up my brain and connects me to something else. I don't know how to describe that exactly. It's almost like channeling, except I'm not a person who does channeling. But that's how I would relate it. So yes, it turns off it's like, Raziel was saying, it kills a bit of the executive function, but for me, it's more like the thing that connects me to a different plane where I can get information. But because, lyrics take so long, chances are by the time I'm done writing, I'm no longer in shape and form. So that has to be another process. And then I'll have to come back and I'll have to, biohack myself again to, okay, let's ADD out, or let's tame the ADD out and go through the repetition of practice until I have it right. Psychedelics. Psychedelics are that tool that hit the reset button on me. It's like, okay, I don't, and that's usually like everything in the world, it's like finally gotten to that point where it's like I can't mentally keep track of stuff anymore. And that will be that thing that says, nope, you have no choice, shut down, reboot. And then usually the next day, I'm rocking and rolling again. And for me, all of these things, I don't care if it's aspirin, all of them are doing some sort of biohack. They're all tools to make your biochemistry behave in a way that is useful for you, even if it's not necessarily healthy or helpful, for the organism. You know, it is for me a kind of a necessary trait.
Thank you. Fascinating. Phoenix, talk to me.
I get like relaxed when people focus on me. Like my first DJ gig where I was like playing my music and playing other music. Uh, I just felt this just relaxation when people were staring. It might be that I'm like a super extrovert and I feed off of everyone looking at me and stuff, or maybe I'm a Leo or whatever. But I do know that what was talked about before with tension release, we gotta all do that because if we don't, we feel like we're either gonna erupt, melt down, or just stop, you know, and it'll just it will inhibit our actual creative process, you know. And the sad thing about caffeine is caffeine's a 50-50 for me. There are some days where I can take it and I'm like, okay, yeah, this is energy. Other days I'll take it and I'm like, I'm gonna nap for 5 hours. So that kind of doesn't help me the most. I did find that with alcohol, some of you, it helps you unlock certain parts of your brain. But with weed, it helps channel all those kind of thoughts for me into creative music, and it just helps me do my focus. So, and what Brett said earlier about hard reboots, sometimes I think we all need one of those where we just take a day if we can and just try to calm ourselves if we can, meditate, or hell, I do heavy industrial thrash dancing kind of, you know, and that just takes all of my primal emotions and just lets it all out so I don't like accidentally target, say, someone cuts me off or something happens, you know, where it will trigger that response of like, oh, I'm angry now. Well, I got all my anger out like last Saturday, you know. So, but yeah, thank you.
Thank you. I think my interest in the reason I find chemicals interesting when you're actually doing the song, doing the vocal, is it's gonna, like, sure, alcohol does dry you out, but it loosens you up. So even if I might actually be able to hit that note when I'm drunk, the way I'm going to get to that note will be entertaining. I promise you that. And that's going to make for a good take. My research into hallucinogenics is they make your eyes actually focus better. So I'd love to know what they're doing to your vocal cords. Like if they're giving you looser, greater muscular control, then that's your vocal folds. That's the sort of thing I would love to see what would happen in front of a microphone when somebody is hallucinating, not too much acid or mushrooms, you know, or maybe. What magic would happen? And obviously you couldn't write the words would have to be printed out, not on a screen, because you can't fucking read that shit. So I'm told. When you're hallucinating off a screen. Yes, Adam, even reindeer think that dancing on mushrooms is fantastic. So that's my interest with it. And if you have experience with hallucinogens and doing vocals, please, or whatever, let me know. This could be very interesting. So did we want to talk about vocal comping, or here's Alex? I personally love talking about drugs and magic. Alex, go.
Maybe we talk about vocal comping first, and then if we have time about my
What
thing.
were you going to talk about?
Scheduling music, because yeah, I would be interested how other people do it.
Okay, well, you know, we could talk about that. Want to talk about that? I used to write down a timetable of what I would be doing in 3-hour blocks and when I'd be doing it. Now what I try and do is just get up early and do music. Because most of the other work I have starts around about 11 a.m. So if I can get up at 4 and be working by 5-ish, 6-ish, then I can get a solid 4 or 5 hours of music in. And I haven't done music all week because I'm sick. And my output has really, really showing it. Like I've got 4 songs that are just banking up now, and it's like, fuck. So yeah, and the creative side of thing, it just happens when it happens. I don't really push it. Sometimes for lyrics, I will push it. Actually, all the time with lyrics, I'll push that, because actually music as well, I have to push it. If it doesn't push it, it doesn't happen. But that's just me. Your hand is still up.
Yeah, I used to try to schedule it, but it's never worked because it just. And the only thing that worked is, okay, from now on, the rest of the day till I sleep, I make music. That's usually the way that works for me. And one time I had like a lunch break near a rehearsal space I had access to. So I just went there and sang my pieces and for an hour, and that worked quite well. Or like something like that, 40 minutes.
Epic. Different strokes for different folks, I guess. And it's difficult because I have found that there is an amount of discipline that I need. Me personally, I need. And if I don't, then it ain't going to happen. Did you want to jump in at all, or can I throw this to the Resonator? Thanks, mate. Razi!
I have like the thing I can rely on is if I'm in the middle or end part of like writing an album kind of vibe, which is not most of the time, you can sort of rely on not scheduling. It's like, oh, it's the middle of the day, I'm going to the studio and I'll just be there. And there's an obvious path and there's so many tasks that it doesn't matter. But for the rest of the time, I actually do have, like short blocks on the calendar. And I don't know what's more interesting, what I schedule or how I schedule it. But I have one calendar for music practice and scheduling and stuff. And it's like rehearse vocals, rehearse bass, that kind of crap. But it's in a light gray color and it doesn't go into my other calendars that come up all over the place because it's just routine. There are some widgets that it appears in, like if I need to remind myself where I am in the day, my main work computer says where I am in the routine. I don't follow it, but it's there. Like I'm blowing it off constantly, but it reminds me that I'm blowing it off. And sometimes it's like, oh yeah, 2 p.m. That's when I go and do a couple of music business things. And for what it's worth, just having that, like I say it's in gray just so that it's not like, you know how maybe the circle for the date is red when it's in focus and the alerts are red. This is low attention seeking. It's just like the ambient, okay, this is the time of day, desk work, bass, guitar, sort files of old songs or something like that. But it's daily and it repeats and it's automatically on the calendar. I don't make it happen. But having that framework to kind of hang things on as a subtle background nag, it has done a little bit to keep up routines and at least remind me when I'm failing to do the routines. So yeah, kind of those two modes. Like, yeah, it's obvious what I'm supposed to be doing, and I'm blowing off my my framework of scheduled activities. But in an ideal world, it'd be like, 3 days a week or something of vocal lessons and 2 days a week of guitar lessons. And I've had varying successes of putting things like that on the calendar, scheduling it with myself or with actual instructors or something like that. But
that's interesting. Thank you. Phoenix, how? Talk to me.
So I try to schedule like 1 or 2 days a week where I can actually just focus on my music, focus on myself, because being chronically ill is extremely expensive. And how it's extremely expensive is it sucks most of your time away, and there are days where I can't get out of bed because it's too much, but those days usually rotate every single week. So I try to figure out, okay, what doctor appointments do I have this week? Where am I going for these days? And then I say, oh, okay, I have these 3 days where I can possibly schedule something. And then I talk to my partner and I say, okay, which one of these days do you want for you? You know, because you've got to focus on that person, you know. And the other is like, okay, I'm going to pick this day to just solely work on music. And this other day, if I have time, I'll work on some music at that time. But you know, that's the way I do it. I'd love to work on music 3 or 4 days a week, but due to like fibro, it's like punches me in the gut sometimes, like, no. And I'm like, oh, why, thank you for reminding me how frail I am. So yeah.
Thank you. Thank you. Brett?
You know, going after Phoenix's doctors and whatnot. So that's actually messed me up a little bit this week. I haven't done much this week either, and that's because I have a doctor's appointment on Tuesday, and that's kind of messed up my mindset and everything else. But in terms of scheduling, when I was doing a lot of work with a bandmate, we picked, I think it was Saturday. It might have been Sunday, but either way, it was that is band practice day, and I think it was actually Sunday. And what would happen is my bandmate would come up. I kind of lived far away at that time, so he would come out usually on Friday night, hang out with us over the weekend, and then we were getting done with work, on Friday, so there wasn't really much time. Saturday we were goofing off playing games and whatnot. And then the whole point was to lead up to Sunday where we're just going to pound the shit out of the studio. And that was a lot of fun. And it works really well for bandmates to schedule that. What I found, though, is that personally, I kind of have to act when the inspiration hits, man. So, I've tried to sit there and say, okay, I'm going to do music this many days a week, and I go into the studio every single day, and it's like, well, now that I've created this schedule, this thing that I've got to chase, it somehow screwed up my brain to where I get in the studio and I do like 10 minutes worth of work, and I'm like, I'm sick of this shit. I'm out, and which is frustrating. And what ends up happening, it's like, a stupid thing from like last night, I got done with work, and I was having a few drinks around the house, and for me, alcohol lowers my voice, so it's already low, but for it to lower my voice is kind of fun, and so I was messing with things like throat singing, and just it's stupid experimentation, and so. That's where it kind of dovetails. Scheduling on the one hand is really great for me when it comes to bandmates. Not so great for me as a musician being creative and needing to actually produce or wanting to produce things. I kind of have to strike when the iron's hot. Yeah, that's kind of where they kind of fit together.
I feel your pain. And it's a really interesting thing. This is what fucking pisses me off about music. Is you sit down for 20 minutes and you write an amazing song. Like you were saying, Phoenix, you wrote a song in an hour. And then you sit down for 3 days, 4 days, a week, a month, and the fucker doesn't come. And it's this far away, this far outside your reach. And you can't get it. And when you finally get it, it's great, blah, blah, blah. But I don't know. And another thought I was having was how, like, we love to detail music. And Brent, thank you for sharing your music, by the way, on the Discord. And that's why I mentioned the detailing, because it was lovely. And it's just fascinating how sometimes you've just got this pile of detail and there's no song there. I'm not referring to your song. It's just something that I currently go through. Is you get through this song and then you go, where's the bass line? What are the vocals singing? Where's the chorus? Like, where is the, and then there's this other song that you wrote in an hour and it's all there and you can't put anything on it because you'll wreck it. It's this balance. It's crazy, man. Sometimes you fucking nail it. Sometimes you don't. Does anybody else want to jump in on this, or do we want to change this back to comping? Okay, let's talk about vocal comping. Was it Rezi or Phoenix or Alex who was talking about vocal comping? Rezi, go, please.
Ivan brought it up, so
Ivan brought it. I said.
I'd like to snap back to him with whiplash as soon as possible, but the basic topic was engineering somebody who's singing and doing multiple takes and putting them together into a single performance, whether that's yourself or your singer. Ivan, did you want to weigh in on your experience with it before?
Yeah, no, I had managed to forget that Ableton introduced comping.
Take lanes, we'll call them.
Yeah. So, it's not just vocals. You could do it with literally anything. And I have to say that the Ableton's like tools for doing that they're pretty well thought out. Like it does a really good job of keeping the song, keeping your work on the timeline where it needs to be. And then, you still have the tools to go in and nudge things over so that the times are matching properly, which is good because sometimes you need to do that. And being able to just like set the region and just like keep re-recording, especially vocals, over and over again, and then having a ton of takes to pull the good stuff out of is definitely a useful feature. Because I had managed to forget that Ableton does that. I got all the recording set up, and I have like the current set of songs that we're working on set up as just like one long take. And I was jumping in between re-looping and replaying on a single song to get a lot of takes on that, which was annoying at best. And then I discovered later on that it also, like, I have take lanes for everything that we did. I don't have to go and like reassemble this to make it work, which was really a lifesaver. I can't imagine what I would have gone through to get all of that lined back up and working. So I'm super pleased there. And like there is like of the things that Ableton's added over the last couple of years, I think comping has got to be one of the like most golden features added to the software, because holy crap, when you need it, you need the shit out of it.
Fantastic. Rezi, where's your brain?
It kind of is all the way back in multi-track tape, whether that be just 4-track cassette or 24-track in the studio. A couple of formative experiences assisting and also recording in those ways set me up for not keeping a lot of take lanes and alternate comps and other things. But Pro Tools blew that up. Like after the limits of tape, where if you're out of tracks, you're out of tracks, I guess you can bounce it off to another reel and keep some takes there and sync it back. Kind of a pain. But Pro Tools had this idea of playlists where you could just have as many playlists of variations of your arrangements of takes and edits of those takes as you wanted. And after experiencing that for a little while, it doesn't work with my established habits. I never readopted a new keep everything kind of attitude. So whether it's Logic's quick swipe, which is really fast, you just sort of drag the cursor over it, or Ableton's take lanes, which are just about as fast, and you get a collection automatically. If you loop a thing and keep singing, put a pin in that, it's going to accumulate all of your takes and all of your versions of that. Pretty cool for quickly building a variety of versions and interpretations. However, when you hand over that session file, that stuff's all still in there. So if there's anything you're truly not proud of or don't want the mixer to use or to share with your musical colleagues or be reminded of, you might just keep in mind to unfold your, yeah, you know what I'm talking about. So putting all of that together in something a little more pithy is I don't tend to use or keep takes. I do a master vocal and punch the fuck out of it. And that may result in keeping some takes because of the way these things automatically collect them. And thank you for doing that, software writers. Don't get me involved because I'll be throwing stuff out and regret it. So I'm glad they keep it, but I mostly focus on comping a vocal in real time by punching. That note, should I retune it or re-sing it? The 3 words around it are not expressing it the way I wanted. Punch in, punch out, start 2 bars ahead, sing through. The take is punched like in the old tape days, except the computer's doing the auto punch, not an engineer or me. Or maybe I just hit the punch on the fly, or I have a pedal. You know, there's a lot of ways of approaching the master vocal take and punching to comp it in spirit, but not from a collection of takes. And I think I can relate that back to just that logging all the takes and assessing them and making a creative distinction between older takes and stuff. I'm very bad at. I don't know what the difference is. Like, in this one's a little better. That's a little worse. No, I feel it. I think it. I record it, and then I've got my comped up, chopped up thing. I do the same with guitar and bass and synth lines, but MIDI editing is obviously a different thing, and certainly it's some combination of retuning the vocals, moving a syllable from another word because it's easier, and actually doing the punches and taking and retaking the vocals to get a good master. And once you've got that whole thing assembled and it's a little patchwork of clips and punches, you might want to just redo the whole thing as one master take with that as your reference. But you also might have your master vocal done that way. I find that I do sometimes.
Amazing. Comping. It's just really fascinating how everybody has a different approach to it. Phoenix, what's your approach?
My approach is I am brand new to vocals, and I've never been able to really set up my own little area to do the same, because we live on a house which is in the corner of a block. So if I set up my microphone, it gathers all noise. So, but the good news is I found out that the library near me now has an auditory recording studio there free of charge. So all I got to do is in the future bring my computer and stuff, go there. They said I can book up to 4 hours a day free. So, and they've got all like expensive equipment in there for the recording, and I'm like, crap. So I'm gonna start doing that. I'm not really good at lyrics at all. So if anyone on the stream wants to throw some lyrics my way and me do it and them split 50-50, I don't care. I just want to like possibly do that because I work with what my strengths are, and my strengths are is I can not sleep sometimes and be like, okay, I hammer out a amazing 4 to 5 minute song in less than an hour, maybe even 15 minutes sometimes. And it's just like pure art. And I'm like, wow, this was inside my brain. But I'm like a beginner at recording vocals. I've had like 4 years of choir, so I know I have a good singing voice. But it may be a little rusty, so I'm going to work on that. But anyone wants to reach out to me afterwards and be like, okay, I got some ideas that might fit, your data wave or EDM style, I'd be like, hell yeah. but that's how I do it.
Excellent. Thank you. Brett, tell me about your brain.
I actually had to look up the definition of vocal comping, but yes, I use that a lot. So I always just kind of considered it an effect, and I don't, and I'm familiar with punch in, punch out recording. I don't do that. I suffer through the entire damn thing every single time, from beginning to end, grabbing, Well, and here's the thing. Like Raziel was saying, beware of what you keep in there and whatnot. Of course, I'm not sharing it with someone else who's gonna. I'm not gonna run into that position. In other words, but what happens with me is I'll do a vocal track and I'll be like, okay, I like this part, I don't like this part. Okay, this part's a little weird. This is off time, this is on time. As I go through it, I'm highly critical about it, especially when I've come back into the studio after doing those sessions to actually start editing. Now, with that said, what I'll do is a lot of times in FL Studio I can very quickly define how loud I want a given segment of track by actually drawing on the waveform. So it's kind of like I'm fading tracks in at different points versus just straight up cuts. But where I use straight up cuts, and there is one that I'm working on now that's going to probably use that, is to do things with vocals that I cannot humanly accomplish because I have to breathe. And there's an old song I did called Cat 5, which was actually a song inspired by the Hurricane Katrina. And when I was watching it, this thing just kept coming, just kept coming, just kept coming. And it never took a break. And so that's how the vocal tracks were modeled. And it wasn't exactly layering where you have, you're not hearing the beginning of the next stanza or the next phrase when the first phrase is ending, but they're so close that it's just the beat that you as a human being cannot possibly have time to breathe and remove that sound from the track, because when you need to breathe, you're necessarily dropping power. And if you don't want to drop power, you must continue. So the only way to accomplish that sound, at least that I've found, is something like vocal comping. And you got to stack it, and that's where I've used it. And I'll use that to effect now. You'll often, like if you go through some of my stuff, you'll hear where, like, it's a call and response where the human in my band, me, is saying something, but the demon is right there on its heels, and there's no time to breathe. And I don't know how in the world I'm ever going to perform that if I'm going to perform that, but it's probably going to be some backing tracks and shit like that. But yeah, I use that a lot, and I use it just like I do with the synthesizers and the drum machines. And it's like, kind of the concept of our art here is that it is industrial, it is machinish, and it is inhuman at times. That's what makes it so dissonant at times. Yeah, but yeah.
That's fantastic. Isn't it ironic how, yes, breathing does drop the cruel irony is breathing drops the vocal energy. It's kind of like how when you blink in if you want to hold the gaze in a show, you don't blink, because as soon as you blink, you lose them.
Absolutely.
That's fascinating. Alex, what are your thoughts on all this stuff?
Where do I begin? I sort of comp like a stone age man. How was it called? Caveman. Because I know my DAWs, both Cubase and Ableton, have comping features, but I just make multiple tracks and drag the audio line downwards because I'm always too lazy to look up how to comp properly. Yeah, the other thing is, Because I hate vocal editing, I try to just practice beforehand and do one takes if I can get away with it. And also, I realized I haven't recorded my own vocals in quite a while, and it's always other people because I suck at writing songs. But anyway, yeah, that's my 2 cents.
Thank you. In Cubase, if you right click, one of the options that comes up is a little hand, and that's the comping tool. Just, can I jump in, Phoenix? So it'll take me at least 15 I'll put it in a cycle, and I'll have 2 or 4 bars before the beginning of the verse, so I can kind of ramp into it, calm down, maybe have a swig of water, boom. It goes in cycles, so each cycle is a different take, and it's one great big long WAV file, but it's all perfectly locked in there. Easily 15 takes. Sometimes it'll be 8 takes. You just know when it's right. Or you give up and you go, fuck it. I will try and have one line, which is about 2 bars, to be from that one each take. Usually it's the last 3 takes for me. Usually the first 3 takes I don't even listen to because they're crap. I will go through and pick out which ones are the good ones. Sometimes I will replace words or small groups of words, but I hate doing vocals so much that once it's done, it's done. And in the chorus, every single chorus is a different take. I never copy and paste the same take across. Plus, if I have a backing vocal, the main vocal will be the best take, and then the second best 2 vocals will be the backing vocals. If it's a kind of a chorus, multiple people yelling, unless it's like a harmony or something like that. Oh God. And if I ever vocode or do anything like that, it's off the center main vocal. Pain in the dick. Phoenix, what are you thinking?
I think to tell Brett, basically, because you mentioned Hurricane Katrina song and so on and so forth. Another artist that I follow that has really helped push me into music was Assemblage 23, and their album Meta, Madman's Dream, was all about Hurricane Katrina and the failure of what happened with that. So that's what I have to add.
Thank you very much. Razi, where's your brain?
There was another little angle that I thought of when Ivan first mentioned this topic, and it was the idea of what are you trying to achieve by putting this vocal together? What does do that again, but better mean? What's the better? And that can sort of expand into telling somebody what to do differently, or telling yourself what to do differently, or are you trying to improve based on comparing with some benchmark, or are you trying to achieve based on does it deliver the message? And there's different ways of getting there. And the sort of caveman approach of just like track. I definitely, Alex, agree on that behavior, because labeling the things, like lead vocal, layer 1, take A, B, C, D, E is, I can keep track of that if it gets that deep. I mean, maybe just take A, take B. And certainly in the demo phase, like mentioning and labeling some of what the characteristic of that, here's the quiet version, here's the louder delivery, here's the one where I do more pitch stuff. Keeping all that shit in the demos, but then severing that, and at some point when you're doing the final tracking, deleting all of your demo stuff except for the one example, hopefully, to keep things straight. But I do like that caveman approach of just, it's on tracks. I mean, there you go. They're all labeled and named, and you can keep track of them. But I know in each instance what I'm trying to achieve better, and I know what I'm trying to tell myself. And sometimes it just comes, it's got to sound like a record. It doesn't sound like a record yet. Let's make this sound like a record. And it's a bit vague and nebulous. So I was wondering, if anybody has a more solid in tune, in rhythm, multi-tracked and doubled so that it's perfectly aligned, cut out the part where your voice cracked. I don't know. What are these like better things that you do for yourself or for others?
Thank you. Brett, rant,
Um,
because I want to answer that. But Brent, the floor's yours.
so Resi, the way I guess the way I kind of man, for me, it's audio track audio. I take everything in audio, and then I go straight up surgeon on it. And that's where it's like that's why I didn't really understand this about vocal comping is because I would rather have 10,000 tracks of the same thing, and then get into the environment where I can zoom in right down to the piece of the waveform I want and stitch those together. And that is my method. And, what I will say about the multiple tracks on top of that is so often, I would say 90% of the time, I'll take those same tracks and I will take like a clean track, like usually my best straight vocal track, I'll just run clean. But then all those other tracks I did, I will grab pieces out of them. I will send them through various effects, glitches. And I've got rhythmizers, things to sit there and just that will automatically cut it up and send it to each ear. On the track that I shared shared on the Discord, we were talking about vocoding. Well, what I ended up doing was taking a vocoder and actually turning it down, but actually adding distortion to my voice to where it sounds like the two are they're very closely married. And that was actually a case where the primary vocal track I doubled, ran half of it through the vocoder, kept the other half straight, and then used my supporting tracks to actually bring in the other little bits of it. So, yeah, it kind of depends on the song, but that's how I accomplish it.
Yeah, dead on, Brett. Dead on. Phoenix, talk to me.
So basically, what I do with my songs is I intentionally sometimes put stuff in them that sounds like it shouldn't be there. Like it skips in the middle of the song, or it stops, or it does this or does that, just to give it and change it up a little bit. And I've also noticed, like, some of my fans were like, I really like this song, but could you remove the lyrics from the song? And I'm like, hell yeah. So I took most of my songs that had lyrics, made a whole like kind of album-ish of lyricless ones, just instrumentals. And some of those actually got more hits than the original one, where I was like, I thought this song was perfect, but more people are saying they like it the other way. But that's how I've been doing my music more often now, because it's like, then I can have two songs from the same song and I can appeal to a wider audience. And then hell, I even ran into someone at the dispensary the other day and they're like, could I use your songs for like my podcast? I'm like, hell yeah, just give me credit. I don't care, spread that stuff. And they seem super happy and excited about that. But yeah, that's what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to transition some of my songs that are lyrics to just instrumentals so they can be more widely used in the backgrounds of things.
Brilliant. Brilliant, man. Thank you. Alex,
I try to cutting up continuous take as much as possible because I always fear to get too clinical and it to be too sterile. What I often do is have a guide vocal track, which is like a saxophone with what I want to sing, but with the like MIDI saxophone sample instrument. And what's usually is the problem with my takes is that my rhythm is off. Ironically, it's always off by the same amount. So if you have like multiple tracks, they will start at the same time, but too early. And what I do against that is to have like a guiding drums, like rim shots, or it doesn't have to be sound fancy because won't be in the final mix anyway, but something to tell me, okay, this is where you are in the bar, stuff like that.
That's great. I'll always do like before the vocals even go down, I've put 1 or 2 demos down, and the demos are always on my shitty 58 mic. Then the finals go down on the nice Rode mic. But although sometimes I think I need to start actually doing demos on the Rode mic because there's some really good shit that goes down. Yeah, so I know what the vocals are doing. I kind of know what the sound is. But when I come times to do the fucking vocals, I will have I will do at least 1 or 2 takes so I can establish the character and how it works. It's tricky. Always so tricky. And it's something I find really hard about working with other vocalists is that I put a lot of energy into the groove of the voice, like what the voice is doing with the funk in the voice. And I'll give it to another vocalist and very rarely they have different vocalists have different feels and grooves. And it's rare to find somebody who's got the same groove as I do. I don't know. It's hard. Vocals are hard, man. They're so hard. Razzie.
There's 2 little interesting, very different angles on that. The iterative part of you don't know what good is yet when you're putting down the final. Like the demo's got something, and you know that this little emotional part in the 3rd verse is the peak of the thing, and you want to preserve that, and you're working toward keeping that as the high water mark for what you need to achieve. But then you do the whole full length take like some of us do, and a different character emerges, as you've been saying, and that character takes over and becomes more of the focus, and you're just kind of mixing this new character that emerged with that hook kind of moment that you want to keep. And I don't find that to be a pain in the ass personally. I think that's kind of fun. Like it's work, but like that discovery and iteration kind of keeps me going sometimes. And the other angle on what good means is oddly, one of the things that I've spent more time recording with other people is as vocal sessions, because I'm set up for it and I had some good mics and preamps, and I advertised and had clients come in and I would record their vocals, not bands. Got a little hectic when there was a crew involved and a lot of people with the vocalist, but as a one-on-one communicating about, I hear something that doesn't meet the bar of the rest of their performance somehow. And it's elusive and sensitive, and you're talking about something extremely personal, but stopping, let's listen through, making my notes and pointing out, hey, bar 2, listen to the rhythm of that, and does it meet what you meant to do? And they'll say, yeah, it's fine, it's great. I'm like, yeah, rock it. And then there'll still be another opportunity. I'm editing the vocal also. I'm going to move it in time, see if it actually sounds better when I moved it. And provided the person didn't say, don't change my timing, it's important. I'll say, hey, I edited your timing. I moved some stuff around on the bar. Listen closely, see if anything sounds wrong to you or like it doesn't represent what you meant, or if it's all an improvement. So good can change as you hear better. Good can change as your character develops for the song. It's fun and elusive in that way. And there's got to be a dozen more examples of how communicating to another person or yourself, if everything in the track meets a baseline of that elusive good that I'm still trying to grapple with and define. I know it when I hear it. I'm distracted when I don't hear it. If something really is fucked up, it sticks out and I notice it. But you don't want to sound off all those fucking rough edges either. So,
Yeah.
man.
And that's what's fascinating about this, is that not only is it hard trying to explain the concept to someone, it's hard trying to explain the concept itself. And I don't know if I'm any good at working with other people with vocals. I think I'm very good. And people have said that I'm very good. I'm always really careful not to. It's real hard because you're on the thin ice of people taking stuff personally, and you tread really carefully and really gently, because as soon as you've said something, it's done.
Externalizing that comparison to, does this serve the song? Does this meet your sensibilities? Not, hey, you fucked that note up.
Because sometimes fucking that note up sounds great. And sometimes little tiny bit of pitch correction is going to fix stuff up. But that's what's really fascinating to me, that I think I'm more interested in the timing than the notes, because you can fix the notes. The timing to a degree, like the funk in the vocals. It's a curious thing. Alex, let's go, and then we might finish with you, Phoenix, because we're hitting time.
Another philosophical point is whether you cut out the breathing noises. I think for me, I only cut them out if they're really distracting, but I think they can add a lot to the feeling of a take. But in certain genres, like hyperpop, I think they cut them all away. I'm
going to add that to the list of things to talk to, because that's the sort of thing we can really deep dive into. Thank you for that. Phoenix, what are you thinking?
Basically, like with all that has been told to me today, it's been a great help, because I now have more information, more tools, more resources, more people that I can be like, hey, I don't know this thing, and they might know it better. And that's why I've had that saying, your success is my success, because I'm not going to be great at everything. And hell, if you're really great at that thing, maybe we can work together. And I'm good at taking direction, I've realized, but it's difficult sometimes for me to get things started. So I'm really great when I'm doing said task of creating music, but sometimes I hit those roadblocks, and that's when I either take an edible or try to just like focus myself, or listen to something that has really helped me in the past with either mostly pain. Pain powers most of my music, but yeah, like this has been a wonderful talk. Thank you so much.
Indeed, and thank you very much. Oh, Alex, your hand's still up.
Yeah, maybe a final word of wisdom that I always forget myself. If you're having trouble with your vocals or your vocal takes, remember to breathe from the diaphragm. What's it called? Like this membrane here between your belly and your lungs. And maybe if you don't know what I mean, I think there are like videos on YouTube how to breathe for singing. Yeah, how to breathe for singing. And also it's like muscles you have to train. So if it doesn't work out, maybe try practicing the same track for several days, and maybe you just build the muscle, then suddenly works, because you have like the what's needed to finish it.
Beautiful, man. Thank you. And I'll end on a very gross story. When I was in uni, we were doing a whole bunch of diaphragm muscles and stomach breathing muscles to really work on those vocals. And of course, I get food poisoning. And it was in my third year where I was like, and I remember, because of my stomach was twitching and convulsing with the food poisoning. I'll spare you the details. I was in pain because my muscles were like, it was bloody awful. Join us every Saturday. We're here. We're done. We're rating onto MTV TV now. So thank you so much for being a part of this. Either watch it on Angelspit's Twitch or watch it on Angelspit's YouTube. There's so much happiness. This is made possible by Angelspit's Patreon. Please join for free. There's a whole bunch of stuff there and everything's fucking roses. The new album's called Red End, and I'm very proud of it. The next one's shaping up to be something fucking tumultuous as well. It's all very funky, but more on that later. And the new Industrial Incisions playlist is always growing. So please keep an eye on it. Vulture Culture on Wednesday night does the best deep dive on the internet on fucking synthesizers and shit, and I'm wearing the shirt, so go buy a shirt as well. Support Alex, keep him going. Rezi, thank you so much for your amazingness.
Always a pleasure, and thank you so much for having us here every week.
Oh, dude, total pleasure. To everybody who rocked out, thank you for your rockage. Find yourself a new band. And we're gonna raid on over to MTV TV now. It's bloody awesome. And remember, if you've got a video, email it to MTV TV and they will play your shit. They've also got a bloody Patreon, so go look after them. If you don't like what's happening in the United States right now, indivisible.org will show you some legal and constitutional things that you can do. And if you feel like you have a problem with social media, like me, go check out mediaaddicts.com. Let's raid. We're going to MTV TV. So Diana, start that raid. If you're watching anywhere else, that's where we're going as the cool kids. And if you do a thing on Twitch, always raid to MTV TV. Think of the community. Got to help them out. How's that raid going?
We are rated.